I remember stepping off the late June train in Dunsmuir, California, thinking how quiet the station was. Calm. The heat wrapping around me like a languid haze. The pine-scented air carrying a faint tension I couldn't name. It should have felt like homecoming. Back to my father's favorite camping spot by Widow's Creek, where we'd spent lazy summers, grilling marshmallows and chasing minnows. But something about the hills felt too still. The cicadas weren't singing the way I remembered. It was as though they'd all stopped mid-chirp, listening. I walked toward the old ranger station to collect the key to the cabin he'd rented for decades. Every step on the dusty platform echoed, a hollow clap that made me glance over my shoulder, half expecting someone to be there. Only the shifting pines responded. Inside, the station was empty, dusty, and dim. No clerk in sight. I found a note typed, but not by me. Door open. Don't look behind you. I smiled, thinking it was my brother pulling a prank, and slipped the key into my pocket. The note itself was perfectly innocuous, the handwriting neat. But the phrase, "Don't look behind you," clicked something primal in my chest. I shrugged it away. Rational. Too much coffee. Too little sleep. I locked the building behind me and ambled down the path to the creekside cabin. Rust orange light filtering down through tall pines. Everything seemed serene. The creek gurgled at the stones. Sunlight splintered on the water. Yet when I looked downstream, among the reflections, I thought I saw, just for a moment, a pale figure standing still, knee-deep in water, staring at me. But when I blinked, it was gone. Night crept in with subtle menace. The first whisper came just after dusk, when I was unpacking. A soft hiss, like breath escaping a tunnel. I froze. It sounded like a low hum. I told myself it was the wind threading through the eaves, even though the windows were closed. I snapped the blinds shut, and the hush fell jagged. Later, I sat on the porch, mug of tea cooling on my knee. Somewhere in the dark beyond the trees, the cicadas finally began again, but offbeat, out of rhythm, clipped and detached. I listened as the chorus started and stopped abruptly. My heart raced. Then, a snap. I turned toward the forest edge and saw faint movement. A pair of eyes, luminous and too low, at deer height, but unblinking, fixed on me. I exhaled hard, but the eyes didn't shift. And then they vanished altogether. Inside, footsteps padded on the floor above me. My brother? No one was supposed to be there. I climbed the creaking stairs on wooden boards that groaned, the flashlight trembling in my hand. Door to the attic stood ajar. I waved the beam through the gap. Thick darkness, then two eyes shining back. I yanked the door shut, all rationality screaming that it must be reflectors from my headlamp catching something harmless. Still, that life-quieting dread congealed in my gut. That night, I woke drenched in sweat to a whisper right next to my ear. "I see you." I lay frozen, paralyzed, listening as my breath echoed back to me. There was nothing, yet I could sense something perched in the corner, watching with those same low eyes. I faked calm, exhaled slowly, and waited until I heard the hum of forest bugs resume, a mocking reassurance. By morning, the cabin felt different, walls tighter, ceilings lower. I found the note again, slipped under my mug. "You're not alone." The ink was smeared, too deliberate. My hands shook as I read it, and a sudden gust rattled the glass. The woods beyond stared back in motionless solidarity. I decided to leave. I packed in a fever and once more walked the path to the ranger station. I half hoped for someone, anyone, to tell me it was a prank. Nothing but mislaid limbs of memory buzzing with fear. The trail felt longer. Every crunch of pine needle underfoot seemed amplified, echoing into the silent forest. When I reached the station, I expected normalcy. Instead, the front door was wide open. Inside, there was only one light on, and it illuminated scrawled words across every wall in chalk. "I'm still here." The letters loomed in open, trembling script. I turned, and against the wall, something shifted in the dust. A pair of those eyes, mirrored in a broken shard of glass propped awkwardly on the counter. I knelt. It was me, or something shaped like me, staring back. My own wide-eyed reflection, only the pupils unnaturally dilated. Too dark. In the corner of the reflection, another face, a pale twin, lips curled in silence. I stumbled back, chest heaving. My phone lay on the counter, cracked screen flickering with no signal. A voicemail. I'm watching. My father? My brother? Too distorted to recognize. I dropped the phone, and it shattered on the wood. I fled, out the door, into the forest chokehold. Pine needles stabbed my ankles as I ran blind, adrenaline roaring. The whispers chased me, the soft, rasping voices that sounded like dozens of breaths melding into one. Don't look. Don't look. The path curved. I burst through the brush onto the tracks. Empty. Silent. No train. No station. Just the hush of the creek whispering in the distance. I don't know how long I ran. When I reached the road, I flagged down a passing car. The driver's face looked normal, but his eyes reflected something strange. Too wide. Dark as ink. I don't remember the ride back. I just left. I tell this now because when I watch the video footage on my phone, I see clues I missed. The way the cicadas pause, the reflection in the water that doesn't respond when I blink, the shadows in the attic corners that shift ever so slightly, but catchable, if you know where to look. I tell them because maybe someone else will see it before it's too late. Because I'll never forget those eyes. And sometimes, still, in the dark, I think I hear the cicadas calling, unnatural and clipped, whispering just behind the walls of my empty apartment, saying, "Don't look behind you." I wasn't supposed to be out that late. It was one of those nights where everything ran longer than it should have. Last drinks at the bar turned into an after party, and by the time I decided to go home, it was almost 3 in the morning. My phone battery was low, maybe 12%, but just enough to order an Uber. I remember standing outside on the dimly lit street, the pavement damp from earlier rain. Scrolling through the app, my driver's name popped up. Michael, Toyota Camry, 4.8 stars. Pretty normal. I saw the headlights before I heard the car. It rolled up quietly, the kind of quiet where you don't notice until it's already there in front of you. The plate number matched. I slid into the back seat, muttering a quick, "Hey," as I buckled up. The driver didn't respond. Not right away. He just adjusted his mirrors, a little too carefully, before pulling off into the empty street. At first, nothing felt off. I did what I usually do, pulled out my phone, half scrolled through notifications, half dozed off. Then, maybe 5 minutes in, I realized something weird. The car was way too warm. Not just cozy warm, but stuffy, like the air wasn't circulating. I leaned forward, trying to make small talk, partly to ease my nerves. "Hey, could you maybe turn the AC on a little?" He didn't answer. He just tapped the screen on the dashboard, and the vents started blowing. But it wasn't cold air, just this recycled, almost chemical-smelling breeze. I sat back, telling myself not to overthink it. The streets outside started to look less familiar. I know the city well enough. After living here for years, you build a mental map without realizing it. But this route didn't make sense. Instead of the main road toward my apartment, he was weaving through side streets, places I never had a reason to go. I leaned forward again. "Hey, isn't the GPS telling you to stay on Lincoln?" Finally, he spoke. His voice was low, even with no real tone behind it. "This way's faster." I stared at the blue line on his screen. It didn't look faster. In fact, it looked like we were heading away from the city's center, not toward it. My chest tightened. I tried to keep calm. "Okay, but can we just stick to the app route? I don't mind if it takes longer." He didn't say anything. Didn't even acknowledge me. My phone battery dropped to 7%. I typed out a text to my roommate. Hey, can you stay up till I get back? My Uber driver's being weird. I hovered over send, but then I glanced at him through the rearview mirror. He was watching me, not looking at the road, not even pretending to, just staring at me in the mirror, eyes unblinking, as if waiting to see what I would do. I froze, my thumb didn't move. I locked the screen and slid the phone into my jacket pocket, trying to act casual, like I hadn't noticed. The roads got darker. No traffic, no open businesses, just stretches of warehouses and empty lots. I started to think about how quiet it was inside the car, apart from the low hum of the engine. Too quiet. I decided I had to break the silence, so I asked, "Hey, do you drive nights a lot?" No answer. I asked again, louder this time. This time he did respond, but it was just 4 words. Not usually this late. Something in the way he said it made my skin crawl. I realized how trapped I was. Locked doors, child safety on. My only way out was if he stopped, and I didn't know when that would be or why. I pretended to get comfortable, leaning back as if I were going to nap. But in reality, I slid my hand slowly toward the door handle, testing it. Sure enough, locked. The ride timer on the app had already gone longer than it should have. A trip that should have been 15 minutes was now at 25. My phone battery flashed red at 4%. Panic started clawing at me, but I forced myself to stay still. And then, as if he could sense my thoughts, he pulled over. No explanation, no comment. Just stopped on a deserted road with a row of darkened storage units to one side and nothing but trees to the other. He put the car in park. The silence felt unbearable. I finally whispered, "Why are we stopping?" He didn't turn around. He just sat there, both hands on the wheel, staring straight ahead. I reached for my phone again, but before I could unlock it, he spoke. "You shouldn't be out this late. People disappear out here." I swear my blood went cold. The way he said it, like it wasn't a warning, but a fact. Like he'd seen it happen. I hit the unlock button on my phone. 3%. No signal bars. Dead zone. My heart was hammering so loudly, I thought he might hear it. I had 2 choices. Sit there and wait for whatever was supposed to happen next, or make a move. I chose the second. I leaned forward quickly, pretending to grab something from the floor, and slammed my hand against the unlock button on the door. To my shock, it actually worked. The lock clicked up. I shoved the door open and bolted out into the night, sprinting blindly toward the storage units. I didn't look back until I reached the chain link fence at the end of the row. When I finally turned, the car was still there, engine running, headlights cutting through the mist. But he wasn't chasing me. He was just sitting there, idling like he knew I had nowhere to go. I climbed the fence, tearing my hands open on the metal, and ran until I hit a gas station half a mile down the road. By then, my phone was dead. I begged the clerk to let me call a cab. The thing that stays with me isn't just the fear, or the silence, or the smell of the car. It's the way he watched me run, without moving, without trying to stop me. Like he'd done this before. And maybe he didn't need to catch me, because sooner or later, someone else would get into his car, too tired or too drunk to notice the wrong turns, too polite to question the silence. And maybe they wouldn't make it out.